Hello, this is Paul Stern, Associate Director of our Warrior Hub Enrollment Service Area with Winona State University. In this segment of our online presentations, I would like to walk through some of the tools and functionality we have online that enables students and families to manage a huge majority of student account aspects that they'll encounter during your time with Winona State. So without further ado, we'll dive in and get right to it. If you can see where I'm at right now, I'm just on our general public homepage, www.winona.edu. Across all 10,347 pages that end up constituting our web collection, you'll see this gray box that goes across the top. We'll talk a little bit about Ask WSU later on in this presentation. This Resources tab is what we're going to jump into and spend the majority of our time together in this segment. So you can see when I click on Resources, I get a variety of different menu options that end up jumping down. This first option, Office 365 and Email, allows students to access WSU email accounts, Teams, Microsoft Teams functionality, OneDrive storage, and a variety of other Microsoft utilities that are available to students as well as email on our online client. eServices is where we'll spend most of our time today, but I'll jump back to that in just a moment. D2L Brightspace is a course content management system that students will frequently end up using for their coursework while at Winona State University. There's a link to the library that has a variety of online resources that'll be very useful for students during their time with us. The Ask Tech link that you see directly next to that has frequently asked questions and answers associated with technology-related questions at Winona State. You'll see our Warrior Hub has a link, maps, and then directories to be able to find departments and individuals across the Winona State campus. So I'm going to click on this eServices area here first and start walking through that a little bit. You can see it automatically ended up logging me in, so I'm going to log out just so we can walk through this together. When I click on Login, you can see that my star ID ends up being populated here inside of this section and my password. That's a functionality you can certainly have set on your Mac or HP for the time that you're with us as well. It's convenient to not have to type it in every time you end up coming into this area. If for whatever reason you forget your star ID, don't sweat it, star ID or password. You can come right here and reset that password. Should you encounter difficulty in getting the password to reset when online here, feel free to reach out to us at the Warrior Hub. We're available at 507-457-2800, and we can help you troubleshoot that. You can also end up sending us an email, and we can get in touch that way. warriorhub@winona.edu. So I'm going to click Login. And now you see our page has changed a little bit. We still have this area here where we could end up doing a search for courses for registration purposes. We can see what's being offered either in the current term or in the next term at Winona State. You can search by subject if you know what the subject is that you'd be looking for. You can also expand this advanced search area. You could search by the general education requirement a course would end up fulfilling. You could search for times, you could search for days of the week, delivery method, either online or in person. Keyword search if you knew a word that was included in the title of the class, or maybe a subject of the class, but you didn't know exactly what the title was. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail in this presentation. You'll have significant opportunity to work with that in your OR 100 class should you end up taking that course during your time with us at Winona State during the fall semester. So I'm going to jump in and we'll check out this dashboard area first. The dashboard area here gives you a general overview of your relationship with Minnesota State Colleges and University System. You can see right off the top they end up having holds that might impact your registration. Those are made very apparent by being highlighted. So usually, as you end up seeing here where you have an indication that there's an immunization record that we need, you also see a way to end up resolving the issue that you're having. By contacting, in this case, health services. If, for example, it were a parking ticket that you had that needed to be resolved, you'd see it would say contact parking services, and that number would be listed there as well. There's a section of other action items too. We do, for example, here you see that we ask that you either confirm or update your address every 6 months. You can do that right online through this portal. That ensures that we have a way to communicate with you via mail should we need to send you anything important. The other thing that you see underneath that ends up being a year-end tax form for tuition that you would use on your taxes. That's the 1098T tax form. During the tax season, if students click on this link, or prior to tax season, if students click on this link now, during the tax season, the 1098T tax form will be available for students inside of this portal. So then whoever ends up filing the taxes or the accountant, it would be very easy to access this document and get it to the accountant or have it for tax time. You can see the current class schedule ends up being listed here. My sample student does not have any courses currently. However, you can see that my sample student is registered for courses in the fall. You can see a financial aid status. If I had submitted a FAFSA, you would see what the status was right here. And then you can see that the only school that I have a relationship with as a sample student is Winona State University. If I took courses at another Minnesota State College and University school over the summer, you would see that listed there as well. So this is a handy page for getting a bit of an overview. So then in the account management section here, you can see that 1098T tax form is available. You can enroll right here by clicking, as I mentioned, and then it's delivered online during tax time. You also have the opportunity to turn off text messaging that's sent to you from the university by clicking on this button here as well. There are various times we end up sending out text messages. We don't send them out for advertising purposes or for any sort of promotional events. We do send them out to remind students when registration is nearing, when there's a bill payment date that ends up coming. Important information that you would likely want to know anyway. So as you consider either opting in or opting out of that possibility, do know that we don't send text messages from the Warrior Hub just to end up telling you about upcoming events. We only send business-related text messages. I mentioned that you can update your address. We'll walk through this whole section. Some folks like to go by a name other than their legal name. That is not a problem at all. You can fill out this preferred name area here, and that goes across the entirety of your account at Winona State University. So if you put in a certain preferred name you'd like to be referred to as, on the course lists that instructors would end up receiving, you'd see that preferred name then included in that class list. I mentioned the address. We ask that you end up either verifying or updating every 6 months as well. You can do that right here. By clicking on edit, you could edit your local address. You could do the same with a permanent address if families ended up moving. So we do recommend that you stay up on that. There are times that we want to send you important information, and if we don't have an accurate address, it becomes very difficult for us to do so. The next section that I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about is this courses and registration area. So I talked a little bit about searching for a course. If you were looking for a course for, sorry, my fingers and my brain were out of sync there for a second. If you're searching for a course for fall, say you're looking for an English course, you could look for it this way and merely click on search. This delivers all the English courses that we're offering at any specific semester. So say, I think this is the one I'm looking for. I would add that to my wish list, click OK, and now I can go into this next area and click on Review My Plan. You can see that I have 2 courses that are saved inside of this area. I'm going to go forward and try to register for this one. And if I were to actually register at this point, I would just put in that star ID password that I used for login at the beginning and click register. I'm not going to go through on this test account and actually register for another class, but that is the way that you would end up managing that. This area here, this Review My Plan, or this View Modify Schedule area rather, sorry about misspeaking there. I recommend that students, within the week or 2 after you've been on campus to register, you come back and you take a look at this schedule. So if, for example, you felt like you had a course at 8 o'clock in the morning every single day of the week, and you don't remember the last time you ever saw 8 o'clock in the morning without alarms going off or people throwing buckets of cold water on you, don't expect there to be magic that'll happen at your university experience that'll make that morning time any easier. So you might want to sit back and end up really thinking about setting yourself up for success. So if, for example, that 8 o'clock in the morning English class isn't going to work for you, you may want to consider switching those classes out to another time. You can see all your registered classes. You would want to review that just to make sure you had your schedule in place as you had wanted it to be when you end up coming for fall. So once you've been on campus and you've participated in that registration event, your registration window stays open all through summer, all through August, up until Friday of the first week of class. You can make any modifications to your schedule on your own up until that time. So if you're changing sections of a class, going in and changing to a later section, for example, of English 111, maybe something that met in that noonish time frame, you could do that right online right here, performing that same search function that I ended up doing before. If you wanted to remove a class from your schedule, you'd click on the X, and the same thing we did for adding a class, we'd use that same password in order to drop it. So if you're just changing sections of the same class, that might be something you should feel comfortable doing on your own, or you could feel comfortable doing on your own. If you're changing classes altogether, being that this is the first cycle of registration that you've ended up walking through, we recommend you end up reaching out to your academic advisor just to make sure the change that you're planning on making still keeps you on course for your degree plan. The next section I'm jumping into will be our academic records section. So there's 3 different main functions that you can end up doing inside of this section. You can check your grades, you can look for an unofficial transcript, or you can review your degree audit. So I'm going to walk through just a couple of these for you quickly here, just to give you a general idea. If you are in the Orientation 100 class over the course of the fall, this will all be information that people will go through in great detail during that time. Additionally, if after watching this series you end up coming up with questions, we are available during core Winona State University business hours to answer any questions that might come up. So I'm going to go to this unofficial transcripts area and I'm going to sort it chronologically. And again, this is a sample student, so we'll have to see how that ends up being generated. So here we are. You can see our sample student with their registration. This prints out a document that looks exactly like the same as an official transcript would be, except for it's not in the security paper or in the special security format in the Adobe Acrobat kind of settings. So this, sometimes people would access this unofficial transcript or the academic record in order to share grades with families, or in case they may need it for a scholarship application, or perhaps some other sort of function. I'm going to walk into the degree audit here, and I'm going to click on requesting a degree audit, and then I'm going to go back and sign in with our test student here. So once I get in this You Achieve area, this is our degree audit. Now, the degree audit is used to end up tracking student progress toward their degree. So I'm going to run the declared programs here. It should just take a minute. So now I'll come in and I'll take a look at this degree audit. We'll look at the athletic training audit this time. So as I come in, you can see there's a variety of graphs. This shows completed credits, in-progress credits, and unfulfilled credits yet toward degree. My GPA is listed here. You can see how these completed credits from that other chart end up lining up to being credits within my major if I have a declared minor, general education credits. Here's the in progress as well. If you're wondering who your advisor is, you can always end up finding their information listed right on the top here. And then you can see how your current coursework ends up aligning with what you need to complete in order to graduate from Winona State University. So again, looking through here, these goal areas are the general education requirements that are required for every degree. And you can see everything that ends up aligning up inside of those areas. And then underneath the next section, you'd see requirements specific to majors and minors. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail in this section. Again, if you're in the OR 100 class, this will be something that you'll go through in tremendous detail. If you have time to, over the course of the summer, want to learn more about how to end up using your degree audit, you can reach out and certainly make an appointment with your academic advisor. They would be more than happy to end up talking through how to use this tool. I'm going to skip over the financial aid portion of this for now, as I know my colleagues in the financial aid department will be going into great detail in that section. And I'm going to hop over to this bills and payment area. So we don't send bills. Bills will not be mailed home. Bills are available online right inside of this portal. So if you wanted to check a balance on a bill, you could come in and do so right here. Every semester's bill ends up being listed by term right in this area. So as we mentioned, registration happens by term. The bill is generated by term. We pay the bill off by term as well going forward. So I'm going to take a look at spring 2018. If I click on this printable view, make this a little bit bigger so it's a little bit easier to see. On this bill, you'll see on the left-hand side, you'd see any charges that were applied to the student account. So you'd see tuition and all of the associated fees listed by line item. You'd see any payments, financial aid payments, individual payments, maybe you made by credit card on this side, and your balance listed on the bottom. So this ends up being quite a handy tool to use in being able to track your student account. So there's a couple other things that I'd like to point out on this page. Families oftentimes like to have the option of being able to check in and see how the bill is standing. So students have the availability to give someone else access to pay their bill, and they can do that by clicking on this, accepting the terms and conditions. When you accept the terms and conditions in here, you'll have the opportunity to simply type in a first name, last name, and email address. Doing so provides the opportunity then for the person receiving that email to use a URL link inside to get in and be able to see the student account, to be able to access the bill portion of the student account. So a lot of times families will end up using that to check once financial aid pays through, to make sure it paid through appropriately, and to see if there's any remaining balance afterwards. These are the areas that I wanted to walk through as far as eServices go. Again, should you have any questions after viewing this video or as you end up going through the summer, feel free to reach out to us at the Warrior Hub. We're always happy to help. You can reach us at 507-457-2800 or by email at warriorhub@winona.edu. Thanks again, and we look forward to welcoming you as the newest members of our Winona State University community.